The school system wants to teach them to be reliant on the government, on the system, on the opposition. It is you and I who are going to teach them to be self-reliant, to have skills and traits that will make them valuable to humanity.
Welcome to the Bedros Keuilian Show.
All right, friends, welcome to the BK Show. I'm just going to kick this one off right away. If you're wondering why I'm laughing, it's because I am dealing with a hernia. I'm going to get a surgery in mid-December because this hernia is really cramping my lifestyle. But the reason I'm laughing is myself and the team here in the studio, we're just talking about what it takes to get checked for a hernia. Not only does it take an ultrasound, but the old doctor wants to put on the gloves and you drop your pants and he starts feeling up the boys down there, and not in the fun sexual way, in a more intrusive and demeaning way, where you feel like you need to go curl up in the corner in the fetal position and cry for a couple hours. But having said that, that's behind me, and here we are doing another great episode of the BK Show. So welcome to the Bedros Keuilian Show. Today we're going to talk about parenting and what it takes to be a great parent and the importance of parenting your kids. And here's why. I've come to this conclusion some time ago that the greatest work we could ever do on this planet is not like an invention that we can create or a product or a service or the businesses and the money that we make. Like, I'm all happy with all of that, the companies that I've created, the products I've created, the services I have, the money that I make. I'm grateful, thankful, proud of all that. That's not my legacy. My legacy is my son and daughter, right? And as parents, if you realize, you come to this conclusion like I've come to, which is we're not just raising sons and daughters. We are raising future husbands and fathers. We are raising future wives and moms, right? And so if you're raising future husbands and daughters, like your son is going to be someone's, very likely they're going to be someone's husband and someone's father. The influence that you have on your son will determine what kind of a father they become, what kind of a husband they are, and how they lead that family. How you raise your daughter and what you pour into her determines what kind of a wife she becomes, what kind of a mother she is, and the influence she has on the family that she's loving and nurturing. And I share this with you because once you understand how much control that you have over the future of humanity, it's not just, I need to feed this kid, provide money, make sure they get to 18, send them off to college or to a job, and that's that. No, man, you have so much influence on this young man or this young lady. So let's talk about that. Because one of the greatest things we can do for our kids, sons or daughters, makes no difference, is to teach them emotional discipline. Like when I made a list of the things that I want to make sure that my kids have so that they are empowered into launching into the life and going into the world, I wanted to have certain boxes checked off. I wanted them to have certain levels of traits and skill sets launching into life. I wanted to make sure that they went into life with a level of character and core values that is hard to find these days, frankly. So let's talk about that. As a father, as a mom, we do have that responsibility. And if you ask the school system, they'd say, hey, just leave it up to us. We'll brainwash your kids into what they should think. And they might think that there's 17 genders. And they might think that, we should just freely do all types of drugs. They might think that it's okay to be a deadbeat and rely on the government, that it's okay to lie, cheat, and steal. Because if you look at what's happening in the world, a lot of our elected officials are corrupt and crooked. And so surely if they're the examples that our kids are going to follow, our humanity's doomed. But you as a mom, you as a dad, you have such responsibility and you have such influence. So let's talk about this. The thing that I thought about was the most powerful right off the bat is emotional discipline. I think that if any human, male or female, if we can build a foundation of emotional discipline, in other words, when something unexpected happens that shakes you to the core, that you are able to bounce back from that quicker than the average person. That is emotional discipline. Resiliency in the face of duress is emotional discipline. In fact, if you can have a high level of emotional discipline, you won't even be shaken up as hard in the first place. Thing number 2 is mental toughness. If a young person could have mental toughness, if we could pepper in toughness throughout their life, helping them make tough decisions instead of making those decisions for them, teaching them to work out at a young age. I took both my kids to the gym by the time they were 5 o'clock, by the time they were 5 years old, I took them to the gym and we were working out. At first, they're just jumping around, goofing off, but they're in a gym environment. They see that there's a routine to this, that we go 5, 6, 7 days a week. And now they're both committed to their health and fitness. Chloe's 17, Andrew's 19. They're both locked in and committed to their health and fitness. And they both know that when life gets tough, that they can go back to working out. They can go back to the gym, even if they have to go a second time or third time during the day, because that is a better antidote than alcohol, drugs, or antidepressants. Because I've told them the stories of my life. Like, hey, son, hey, daughter, when I've gone through hard times in my life, there were some days that I would go to the gym 2, 3, 4 times a day because it was a better coping method than the alternatives, right? I've also committed in helping my kids develop money mastery, teaching them that you don't necessarily have to go and trade time for dollars. You can if that's the path you want to take. And there's certainly plenty of options in terms of careers and jobs where you can trade time for dollars. But you could also decide that you're going to be an entrepreneur and you don't have to trade time for dollars. You may in the beginning, but as you win your freedom as an entrepreneur, you can have more flexibility. And in fact, if you are trading time for dollars, you can decide how much more dollars you're making for that time. Because I want them to understand that they don't have to be under the management of somebody else if they don't want to be. They can manage their own time. They can manage their own lifestyle. They can manage their own schedule, but only if they also know how to produce money, manage money, grow money, invest money, and not squander money. And as parents, we have to teach these things, right? Money mastery must be taught. And of course, core values. I've had to teach my kids that sometimes you will have to stand up against a teacher, a principal, a coach, a politician. If you have core values and you understand and you realize that these people are trying to oppress you and trying to use a corrupt system against you. That is the realities of life. If we don't educate our kids on that, if we don't teach our kids how to have a voice, how to stand up to bullying, whether in the schoolyard, in the workplace, or in life, then how can we expect them to lead our country to a better place? How can we expect them to lead their families to a better place? If we don't teach them core values and non-negotiables, like these are the things that we do as a family, these are the things that we don't do as a family. These are responsibilities that we have, and these are the responsibilities that we don't have. We can't rely on the government for things that we should rely on ourselves. The school system wants to teach them to be reliant on the government, on the system, on the opposition. It is you and I who are going to teach them to be self-reliant, to have skills and traits that will make them valuable to humanity, that will help them find a spouse who's also high value, so that they can produce a family that is an asset to humanity, right? And with that, I've also made sure that my kids know nutrition. The reality is the food pyramid and the food groups and all the different ways the government and the school system want to teach nutrition is designed to help keep them fat, sick, low energy. And that feeds perfectly into the pharmaceutical company agenda. I don't want that for my kids. You don't want that for your kids. And so I thought to myself that I'm not just raising a son or daughter. I have to teach them how to read a nutrition label. I have to teach them what processed foods look like. I have to teach them what additives are added to food that, while legal to add, are damaging to the human body. And it's as simple as taking any packaged food from your pantry, looking at the ingredient list and Googling those ingredients and figuring out what are the harmful effects of those ingredients, of the dyes, of the chemicals, of the preservatives, and educating them that the FDA might allow a certain amount of preservative or chemical in a package of food. But if it's found in this food and that food and that food and that food and the other food, you might be taking in way more than you should be. And over time, that increases your chance of causing cancer, diabetes, heart disease. Teaching them how to read a nutrition label, what calories are, how to burn calories, what quality calories are, proteins and healthy carbohydrates versus fats and simple sugars as carbohydrates. Those things are good for you to learn as a parent, and they're great for your kids to learn. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I was eating everything in sight. Bowls of cereal. I would find packages of bacon in the fridge, and I'd literally grill up the whole package. At 10 or 11 years old, I'd grill up the whole package of bacon and eat it. And I kid you not, I would then scramble eggs in the grease left behind from the bacon. Looking back, it's in those formidable years when we're young that we're increasing fat cells in our body. I've added so many fat cells to my body that it's easier for me as an adult to get fat. And therefore, I have to dial in my diet, because it is when you're a child that you're increasing fat cells. And so I was making sure that my kids eat a healthier diet so they don't have an overabundance, an over surplus of fat cells, which means as adults, it's easier for them to get fat. Like, these are things that you can do for your kids today. And you could educate them in the process of reading a nutrition label, an ingredient list, figuring out what their macros and caloric intake should be. Teaching them that there's times that you're hungry, there's times that you're thirsty. Sometimes you're thirsty and you might want to eat to satisfy your thirst, not even realizing that. You may not even know that. Something like a third of humanity out there, when they are thirsty, they actually go for food instead of water. Or they'll go for soda or coffee or an energy drink instead of water. Educate your kids on what those energy drinks do, what the coffee does to the body, how all that energy in the body not used up is either stored as fat or is produced as anxiety. You probably didn't know that. But all that energy not used is either going to produce anxiety or it's going to get stored as fat. Either way, it's not good for them. It's not good for you. Hey guys, quick interruption to the show. Let me tell you all about the Keuilian Wellness Shot. If you're like me and you care about your health, hydration, and building a strong immune system so you can stay active and you can get after it in life, then you want to try the Keuilian Wellness Shot. I used to take 11 different supplements in the morning, things like vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B12, echinacea, ginger, and a whole bunch more. Now it's all included in the Keuilian Wellness Shot. I want to send you a 30-day supply for 50% off. Just go to Keuilian.com, use the code word BEDROS, my name, to get 50% off. You'll also get free shipping. You get a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee, and $1 of every order goes to Shriners Children's Hospital. And when you use the code word BEDROS and do the subscribe and save, which is a Keuilian Tribe program, every month you'll get a fresh supply of Keuilian Wellness Shots for an additional 20% off and free shipping, and $1 of every monthly order will go to Shriners Children's Hospital. So go to Keuilian.com, use code word BEDROS, and take advantage of this amazing offer. Now back to the show. I've also taught them to be committed to their health and fitness. I've taught them that their health and fitness is the number one priority because they cannot become a liability to their families, to their spouse in the future. And if you can have a physically, mentally, and emotionally fit body, then you are an asset to humanity. And I've demonstrated that. I've taught them how to get that. And it's important for you as a mom or a dad to teach that to your son and daughter. And the reason that's important is because if you don't, no one's teaching any of this stuff. You show me where they're teaching emotional discipline, mental toughness, money mastery, core values, understanding nutrition, commitment to health and fitness. And how about this next thing? To become a servant leader, to be able to actually serve humanity, to look after their peers, to have a voice, to stand up for what's right, to learn how to communicate their thoughts and feelings and emotions. That's what a good leader does. If you're telling your kids right now that you should be seen and not heard, if you're not helping them articulate their message, if they have a feeling and a thought and you're not helping them structure an argument, even if that argument is against you. I've had many a times my son and daughter have used the structure that I've taught them to convey a message, to articulate a message against me. And I say against me, and it was rightfully so because, as dad, I put my foot down, and sometimes I put my foot down, especially when they were younger, and I was angrier. You put your foot down for something that is unjust. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, let's say Andrew's room was dirty and he needed to have organized it. And I see hours later that he hasn't organized it. Maybe I give him a punishment that is not just for the crime. Like, he's come up to me and said, "Hey, Dad, I don't think that punishment was a fair punishment for the crime. I think you were angry. You came in hot from work. I could tell that you were emotionally worked up. And yes, I should have had my room clean and organized. But I also think the punishment doesn't fit the crime." And after I cooled off, I remember specifically, he was 12 or 13 years old. I was like, "Son, you're right. You're absolutely right." And I was able to adjust the punishment. But if you don't give your kids a voice, not only will they resent you in the future because of a scenario like that I just described, but they won't be able to lead themselves through life. They won't be able to lead themselves in a marriage. They won't be able to communicate with their friends, with their spouse, with their coworkers, with their boss, if they want a raise, if they want a lateral move. If we can't communicate, if we feel that we can't lead ourselves through communication and transference of thoughts and feelings, we start getting emotionally irrational. That's when we start getting depressed. That's when we start getting anxious. That's when we start getting overwhelmed. So as parents, my friends, understand the responsibility that you have. You're not just raising a son or daughter to the age of 18. You're not just trying to keep them, well, as long as I can keep them, out of trouble and fed and educated through the school system, I've done my job. No, that's the bare minimum. That's the bare minimum. Your job, my job, is to produce and deliver a great husband and a father with my son, and a great wife and a mother with my daughter. That is the responsibility that we have as parents, do we not? I hope that you agree with me, and I hope that you understand these things that I listed off: emotional discipline, mental toughness, money mastery, core values, understanding nutrition, commitment to health and fitness, becoming a servant leader, and the ability to communicate their thoughts, feelings, and ideas. If we don't teach them this, no school system will teach them this. No university program will teach them this. No workplace will teach them this. And they will then limp through life like injured little gazelles. And they will then produce more people like them. And if you're like, "Dude, I don't even know these things," then here's your chance to start developing the muscles here that you need to develop so that you can bestow them on your kids. And if you can't, then I'm telling you, you're going to be just as responsible as the corrupt government who wants to cripple and disable the kids for the future. And if you're watching and listening to this episode and you're like, "Man, this doesn't really apply to me. I don't have kids." If one day you decide to become a mom or a dad, then take this to heart. Right now, I want you to start parenting yourself. If you don't have kids right now and you're like, "Man, this doesn't apply to me," I say it does. And I say that you have the responsibility to take this list and go down this list and parent yourself and become an emotionally disciplined person, a mentally tough person. Have money mastery for yourself. Figure out your nutrition. Figure out a commitment to your work. Find purpose. Your workouts. Like, make that a priority. Develop core values. Become a servant leader. Learn to communicate. And if you do, then when you have kids, when you're a parent, imagine what weapons you will produce with your kids. And that is the mission of being a great father, being a great mother. And listen, if you're a dad and you're listening to this, and you've got a son who's between the ages of 12 and 17, you've got to create a rite of passage experience for him. All boys need to know that they have crossed the chasm and they are now men. See, moms do a great job in turning babies into boys, but it's the dad's job in helping boys become men. And the way we do that, fellas, the way we do this is by creating a rite of passage experience for our sons. And I want you to join us at the next Squire program. We have Squire classes in 5 different states: Florida, North Carolina, California, Texas, and Colorado. I want you to come and join us for a Squire class. In the description box of this podcast or this YouTube show, you can find a link to the Squire program, and I want you to join us with your son for an awesome 12-hour experience that creates a rite of passage where he goes from being a boy into becoming a man, like getting a seat at the table, and you can start forging him from that day forward into a man. And if you can do that, he will thank you for that. And if there's a book that I could recommend for fathers who have young men, it would be Raising a Modern Day Knight. I forget the name of the author, but I highly recommend you read the book, Raising a Modern Day Knight. It's a wonderful book. And it'll give you so many great ideas in building your son into a formidable man. So I look forward to seeing you and your son at a future Squire class. And I appreciate you taking time to watch and listen to this episode of the Bedros Keuilian Show. And remember this, that average is the enemy, that success is your responsibility, and change can take place in an instant if you are willing to flip the switch. I'll see you next time.